राजीवाक्षघन क्षामेति ब्रूहि मुकुन्देति अक्रूरा प्रिया चक्रधरेति अक्रूरा प्रिया चक्रधरेति हंस निरंजन कंस हरेति हंस निरंजन कंस
ಏನಾಯ್ತು?
Shankar, you are muted.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು.
ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
ಕೊನೆ ಲೈನ್, ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ ರಾಮ, ಅದೇ ನಾನು ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ದೆ ನಾನು.
Magic happens.
Yeah. Shankar Mahodaya, Shamyatam, when I was putting all the unmute one, I think it accidentally unmuted you. The last sentence only we didn't hear.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ, ಟೈಮೇ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು, 11 ಆಗೋಯ್ತು.
I think it's time. All right, let's begin. Let me share and then okay. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindram Atasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharyam Atasya Padmapadam Chastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyan Asmadgurun Santatam Anatosmi. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. अथ श्रीमद् भगवद गीता ध्यान श्लोकाः. ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी. नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे उल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नम् वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगा ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देहाय तस्मै नमः. Let's go to 4th chapter, verse 4. We will sing from 4th verse to the 12th verse. That's where we stopped last time, more or less. So we'll go to that. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katametaddvijaniya त्वमादौ प्रोक्तवानिति श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन नाहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यमायया यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन वीतरागभयक्रोध मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागताः ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा. So we were looking in the last class, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodaha Manmaya Mamupashritaha. We'll pick up from there. Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhava Magataha. So the path for coming to me is to give up Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. Vitaraga Bhaya Krodaha. Vita is one who is free of these emotions. So they come to me, and he says, this is not just a hypothesis. Bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava magataha. Several have already come to me by doing this austerity of knowledge. Austerity of knowledge calls for removing this human emotions. And when you remove these human emotions, then you come to me. That's what he's saying. And so many people have come. This is not just a theory or a hypothesis. This is practice. This has been practiced by several people is in the past. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. Here he says, okay, if people are coming, then how do you answer for people who have not come there, but still they are working? They are devoted to you, but they have not come to you. Then he says to that potential question, he says, you see, people worship God in different forms. If they worship, if you see, we looked at some examples. Yashoda wanted to worship me as a son, so I presented to herself as a son. And then if you look at Sudama, he wanted me as a friend. I came to him as a friend. Like this, people have different emotional bents, and based on those emotions, they worship different gods, thinking that they are different. No, those gods that they worship, whether they worship Rama or Ganesha or Shiva or whoever it is, that is all me, Ishvara. So when they worship in a certain forum, I appear to them in that forum and I give them that, which is very fair. That in the sense, what I want is what I am getting. I'm satisfied that way. So tams tathaiva bhajamiham mama vartma anuvartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. So he says, they take my lead. People take my lead. And in that lead, if they are looking at me.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Krishnamurti. We don't see you in the television, in the desktop. What you are saying.
Yeah, I'm putting I have sharing something, so you don't see me because of that.
Oh, thank you.
And that's the way it generally is. Unless, yeah, you in a corner you can see a small portion. Yes.
I don't see any.
Well, I don't know you. I don't know your system.
No, I usually see it. Today is the first time I'm not seeing it.
All right, we'll see. Anyway, so they follow my lead. People follow my lead. And then if so, kangshantaha karma, why don't everybody come to you? If everybody is following your lead, then they should all come to you. Then for that Krishna answers, kangshantaha karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. He says, the people engage in action, in karma, seeking something instant gratification. They want more benefit right away. See, this coming to me is a very, very tortuous, long process, whereas getting some benefit right away is easier. Therefore, people follow these other paths, doing various kinds of pujas and worships and things like that. They get benefit like that. So they Chipram hi manushele, okay. In this world, in this human world, he says, they get benefits faster by doing those karma-related worships, and they therefore worship them. They don't come to me with the intention of removing their human emotions. They are involved in emotions and work towards something, and for that they will get a benefit. So that be, and he says, why this difference comes in the emotions and people and how to handle that is discussed in the next verse. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashaha tasya kartarapimam vidya kartaram avyayam. So this is where we were there last class. So we were looking at this. I created this 4 Varna system comprising of 4 Varnas. And he says, I did this. I did not do it just haphazardly or arbitrarily. I take into account the guna and karma of people and then divide them, categorize them into 4 Varnas. And then here, the second part of the verse is, Tasya kartaram apimam vidhi akartaram avyayam. He says, even though I am engaged in that karma, it does not impact me. That's what he's saying. We'll see what that is. Anyway, we were discussed in the last class this guna matrix. The prakriti around us, the nature around us is what it is composed of is it has three attributes: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva is happiness, knowledge, contemplation. All these characteristics come together under the category of sattva: meditation, tolerance, having forgiveness. These are all in part of this sattva. And people who have these experiences more often, they have sattva as a major part. All the people have all the three attributes or the gunas, but one has more of the other, and that characteristic is what we are looking at. People, rajas guna or rajas proclivity is attachment, raga, thirst for worldly pleasures, seeking comfort. These are all, bodily comfort. We want comfort for the body. So these are the rajas component. And the tamas is the being very lazy, inert, sleepy, etc. This is tamas. And so all of us have experienced this on a day-to-day basis also, in smaller changes, like small amplitudes. But given that, still people have different levels of sattva, rajas, and tamas. And this sattva, rajas, and tamas can be acquired by trading one for the other. An example that somebody gave for this is, you go to a paint store and you ask for any color. They have three colors. I think white, red, and one other yellow, I believe. Anyway, they have three colors, and they mix these three colors in different proportions, and you get a color of your choice. And that's all programmed in their computer. They have about 200 colors displayed, and you say that you want this color, you get that color. Like that, this sattva, rajas, and tamas, they are three basic ingredients. And then different people have different amounts of this sattva, rajas, and tamas, bringing out a personality of their own. Just like the three different paints in different proportions brings out different colors. It's a coincidence or what? Varna, I means also color. That's another piece of information on this. Okay, anyway. So we can increase sattva by putting down rajas and tamas, or the activities associated with tamas and rajas we cut down and we increase sattva. Or we can increase rajas if we don't care about sattva. If we don't care about sattva or rajas, we kind of get down to tamas. So now we looked at these various distributions of guna in the Prakriti. What makes, what activities, what components, what of nature relate to the sattva, rajas, and tamas. And now we looked at this last class, but I am not going to go detail into each one of them. Just pick up a couple of things here. The Shastras have different dispositions. So there is Upanishads, which talks about renunciation. Those Upanishad mantras. They are sattva enhancing. And then there is the, like the Upanishad, the Vedic mantras that talks about Shodashaka, or 16 engagements, Shodasha karmas. So that is rajas enhancing, like a grihastha. A grihastha is engaged in those 16 samskaras, and that is rajas enhancing. And there are some mantras which are kind of lazy or disregard the mantra itself. I don't care about the mantra. If I have that attitude, I tend to increase my tamas like that. So let's say meditation on Sri Hari is sattva inducing. Meditating on people, others opposite sex, on enemies, those are all rajas or tamas enhancing. Like this, And then samskaras, there are samskaras that can be undertaken to cleanse the mind. They are sattva enhancing. Then there is the 16 family-centric samskaras, jata karma, chaula, etc., upanayana, marriage, all these are come under the Shodasha samskaras. They are rajas enhancing. And if you don't follow any of these, like here I said in this case, you don't follow the shastras, you don't follow the shastra injunctions of these things you have to go through. I ignore all of them. I end up accumulating more of tamas. Okay, this is where we stopped last class. Let's move forward. Now, this sattva, rajas, and tamas, they act in all people. I am trying to capture that in it's a three-dimensional movement in space. Think of it like that. Now, here there are three planes. The horizontal plane, that is sattva, is 0. This is 0, 0, 0. Here 100% rajas, 100% sattva, and 100% tamas. Now, look at this horizontal plane. The sattva is 0 in this plane. And if you look at the vertical plane, the tamas is 0 in this vertical plane. And this vertical plane, if you take, like the rajas is 0, this we can totally ignore. Without rajas, nobody can exist. Rajas is the one that even for me to take one step from where I am sitting or where I am standing, I need rajas. Therefore, rajas is rajas equal to 0 is a non-starter. So we will ignore this particular plane. So basically we are concerned with these two planes. Sattva is 0 on the horizontal plane and tamas is 0 on the vertical plane. We said no guna is 0 particular. So we start with a little more higher. As in a human life, we could start with a little higher level than the floor. Look at this as the floor. Look at this as the wall in front of you. You are standing away from the wall, say 10 feet. So at the point where you are standing 10 feet away from the wall along this corner here, the tamas is 0. Tamas is 100%. And tamas is 100% refers to mountains, soil, earth in particular. These are all, you can say, is tamas equal to almost 99.99%. Rajas and sattva are almost non-existent in this state. And then you can come to, like humans, plants and animals. You reduce the tamas, you move up here. I will show this. Let's see. So, in this plane, the sattva is 0, I said, but mostly you have rajas and tamas. And when you come to this plane here, you have more of rajas, you have less of sattva. And then you move up to the ceiling along this line, you reduce your rajas and increase your sattva. So our travel as we go from life to life is first we are on a horizontal plane of small sattva, but mostly rajas and tamas. And then we move towards in the horizontal plane. And then somewhere along this point, we have to make the transition from the horizontal plane to the vertical plane. And then we travel on the vertical plane up to the ceiling. That's the picture I'm drawing here. Okay. If this being the case, so you have here, you see this we said along this line, mostly it is mountains, stones, boulders, etc., etc. Then we come here along this line, we increase the rajas a little and at the expense of tamas. These are the plants, and in this area you will see the plants, and if you move further, you have some animal kingdom, people in the animals that have some rajas, mostly sattva. Now, human beings come in this area somewhere along here. the initial, the way this is presented is like this. You go through the 84 lakhs or 8.4 million animal species, and at the end of the 8.4 animal species, 8.4 million animal species, you get a human life. And when we get the human life, the first human life we get, I don't know when we have got it. This is beginningless, more or less, you can say. So at that point, mostly our gunas are tamas and rajas. We have more tamas than rajas. And then as we engage in life, the human being starts reducing the tamas and comes to increasing the rajas. And then at some point here, he starts thinking, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that. I see some benefit in there, not being lazy. Then at that point, he looks, in order to do anything, there is a process, there is a procedure. And that is what the Shastra is. He comes to know the value of the Shastras, and then he increases the sattva. He comes to a higher plane than the ground itself. And then up to this point, you have rajas, sattva increasing. And then that's when you look at the Shastras, the Dharma Shastras and all those things. And then somewhere along the line, we start doing good deeds, and doing the good deeds increases the sattva and reduces the rajas. Think of it, there is some tamas. We'll not worry about that in this plane very much. So then you come to this point. Now, there is still some more to travel. I will talk about that in a little later. Now, we don't go to this, this is not a straight line just like that. I will, last life I was here, this life I will be here. That's not that fast, doesn't move. The gunas don't change that fast. Now, this the way it's, so here, this is the first human life, or people who have been there in other lives, but they get, demoted, if you will. That's the, for doing certain things, they will get a lower life, and that is the adharma. So people who don't follow the scriptures, who don't follow the Dharma Shastras, they do societal, they do some good things, it's not that they are not contributing to the society. Probably the best way to explain this is they are taking more from the society than giving to the society. That is the kind of living that they have. Now, as we move along, if a person applies himself to working with the knowledge of the Dharma Shastras, etc., then he moves to the next, phase. So here, this person has more rajas than the person here, and he has a little more sattva, but he has reduced his tamas. So a person who follows the dharma, living according to the injunctions of the Shastras, such a person is in this area. Now each dot here is a life. Look at it as a life. In each life, so here a person who is living in dharma, give or take, he goes through this way several lives, and ultimately this is the path for him. And in that path, he wanders here and there. He does not go straight. Like, it's not like what you call this straight arrow, shooting a straight arrow, we say. It's not like that. He is having a scenic route. He goes through life, enjoying here and there and all. Now, to give some perspective here, in this region, now if I want to take Yudhishthira, let us say, he lived in a life of dharma, complete dharma. Yudhishthira is somewhere here in this neighborhood, if you can say. Or you can even say, because, if you take into consideration he was a Kshatriya, We will deal that. I come to that later. Maybe he could be here also. That is where Yudhishthira is. Now, if I want to say where is people like Saddam Hussein or Idi Amin or someone like that, they could be here. They could be somewhere in this region. Now, you come up to here and then, I'm tired of this birth again and again, and I want to get relief from this cycle of birth and death. Then the Shastra says, yes, you can do that. That is when you get to here, you start engaging in Karma Yoga. When you engage in Karma Yoga, you are not working for yourself, you are working for society. You have no expectations of the Karma Phala, and there's a certain regimen for that. You follow that, and then you move up here. And several people, we can say like Mahatma Gandhi is an example of a Karma Yogi. And we cannot, people who are in this region, we cannot gauge them because they are extra perception. Where people in this area, we can gauge by their behavior because their sense perception is possible. People in this area, sense perception is not possible, so we cannot gauge them. We cannot say who is a real Karma Yogi. One may act as a Karma Yogi, but internally, if he has a lot of desires and all those things, that doesn't give a good picture. But you can make some general observations. Again, we have heard of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi is beyond this. He is said to have been experienced self-realized person. But he went through this process before he became a realized person. He went through this process here, Karma Yogi, and ultimately he will have no birth at all, and he is outside of this Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas proclivity domain. He is gone beyond Maya. That's the various different terms. Now, just to summarize this. Okay. Now, what is that Krishna, going back one here. Now, these gunas bind us in this life. And this is what we had seen in in the second chapter. Krishna had said, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistrairgunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. We have done this. So Krishna had said here, you have to go beyond the gunas. All the Vedas, they talk about all the karmas that they talk about is Traigunya. They have this guna association with them. Therefore, you have to transcend beyond guna. Therefore, you become Nistrair Gunya, and then you can go on the path of realization, and then you get relief from the transmigration or samsara. Now, coming back to this, so this is the horizontal plane I was talking. This is the vertical plane, and living in the horizontal plane is very much a life of tamas and rajas. And if we are not careful, we do slip back into animal or plant life, depending on the karma. Each karma has a certain karma phala associated with it, and therefore will be born as, cows, tigers, reptiles, whatever that may be, according to that particular karma that we do. So we could slip into this this zone of animal and plant life. Now, on the by the same token, people who are on this vertical plane, who have done many good things, they get a celestial life, like Indra, Varuna, Yama. These are all positions. So you do so many good things, or even Creator Brahma, for that matter, belongs to that category. You take a break from the human life, and then you enjoy the divine life. After the divine life is, there is a certain period of time for you to spend in that Swarga, if you will, heaven. And then after that, you'll come back to human life, and you will continue from where you left off. Both in the case of a detour into the animal plant life or a detour into the divine life, you come back and pick up from where you are. from where you left before that. So if I leave my divine, human life to a divine life at this point or at this point, I will come back to the same point. My gunas are intact. My gunas will not be affected by either a detour here or a detour here. Now, having said this, now the movement through this space, movement through the gunas is not easy. It's not a very fast, this life I am here and next life I will be here. That won't be possible, because I showed that in that, previous slide, how each dot represents a life. See, what basically it means is, if I'm telling, say, 10,000 lies every year in my life, next life I will not become a Satya Harishchandra right away. It takes a lot of effort to get from where you are to where you have to be. So anyway, once you are here, you are living a life of dharma. Then you get attracted towards this self-knowledge. At that point, you'll start practicing this Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha, giving up the emotions and fruits of action. Then you make a path towards the self-realization. At this point, when you get to 100% sattva, then you are outside of this prakriti itself. I give this example, Shuddha Brahma Parat Pararama. Rama is considered as Shuddha Sattva. Whereas all this zone is called Malina Sattva. You have some Rajas and Tamas in this plane, but at this point it is Shuddha Sattva. Therefore, this a person has to travel through these from the first human life to the current state where we are. We have passed through this process of going along like this. So we are all somewhere here. We could all be somewhere here. If you take most of the people that we interact with, we are all somewhere here. Some are following the Dharma Shastras a little more than somebody else. Doesn't matter, but we are likely to be here. This is just a speculation. Now, all these 2 or 3 slides I have shown, there is nobody has put it in these terms. So this is my creation. I have told you all the time that if I deviate from the Shastra, I will tell you where I am deviating. So this is my creation to explain this particular phenomena of the Varna movement. All right, so moving on. Now, those are the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. We all have, going back to one more, I said earlier that the guna is maintained. Wherever from, if I am here in this life and I end this life at this point, let us say, then next life also I begin right here. I don't go start my next life here. I begin my life here, next life. So with that understanding, we can understand the relationship between Varna and Guna. Now, Krishna says, I have created this Chatur Varna, 4 Varnas organized by me, the Ishvara. Now, this is supported by the Shruti also. You will see in the Purush Sukta, Brahmanosya Mukamasid, Bahu Rajanya Kritaha, like this. So there is a based on the combination of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are defined. Now, for some people, this may be offending. You call it A, B, C, D, or alpha, beta, gamma, or whatever it is. There are 4 classifications. Whether we like it or not, it is there. Okay. So he says, I have categorized these 4 Varnas by Guna and Karma. So where they left off in the past life, that is where they pick up in the current life. That's basically what this is saying here. Gunas are the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now, we have to understand that this Varna system is not a grading system. It's not meant to, if a person is a Brahmana or Kshatriya, he cannot put a sticker on his face, I am a Brahmana or I am a Kshatriya. It doesn't mean anything. Actually, the gunas, the Varnas are meant to maintain a certain harmony. And in the context of maintaining harmony, some are given some leading roles, some are given they because of where they are, they have to follow the lead provided by other people. And in this context, the Brahmana and Kshatriya are leading in the sense the Kshatriyas are the kings. Brahmanas, if you go back to the old tradition, the Brahmanas are the advisors, the ministers. So both Brahma Shakti and Kshatra Shakti is required to maintain that harmony. That is what this is providing. So Varna system is not a grading system, just merely matching the actions to the skills. This is exactly what all businesses, all government agencies follow. And that based on how I am prepared for a certain position, I am placed accordingly. If I am trained in engineering, there is no way I can function as a surgeon. Basically, that's what this is saying here. So, and these gunas are, as I said, is that table I showed you. We have done certain actions, we have consumed certain materials and things like that, and that brings that guna in us. Now, the outstanding fruits of action are, I have come to take this life to experience certain fruits of action of past lives. Now, I am, what Varna system is saying is that that fruit of action that I have to experience is best served in an appropriate domain of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And therefore, the birth happens in a domain where that combination of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas will be allowed to progress. And that is the purpose of this. So inevitable karmas in experiencing those fruits of karma must synchronize with their proclivities, in the sense that in this life, if I gotten this birth, this life to perform XYZ actions, then those XYZ actions must be synchronizing with the gunas that I bring to bear on it. I cannot be, as I said earlier, I cannot be a tamasic person and next day I cannot become a sattvic person. So based on this, there are 4 categories. Sattva prominent and Rajas is secondary. So that classification is called a Brahmana. Sattvika, Sattva prominent Sattvika, a Brahmana. He is assigned the tasks of Shama, Dama. In the 18th chapter, 42, 43 and 44, those 3 verses, Krishna describes the tasks associated with the Brahmana. Now, there is a reason why he has delayed that description until the 18th chapter. Here in the 4th chapter is introduced the Varna, and in the 18th chapter he discusses the jobs or the karma associated with those Varnas, because we have not studied Varna in detail. What I have covered is only just enough to show you here. In the 14th chapter, 16th chapter, 17th chapter, 18th chapter, up to about verse 40, it is all a description of the the gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So there, having understood the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, he describes the task associated with a Brahmana, Shama, Dama, etc. Now, a question comes, how is it that today's Brahmanas are not following any of that and still they got a Brahmana life? That question has to be answered. So the only answer is that the 4 yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and our current Kali Yuga, there is a different expectation in each yugas. Only certain people of certain, this is my view, this is my speculation, that certain people of certain Sattva Guna only or take birth in the Sattva Yuga, in the Satya Yuga, and then similarly, like in Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga, there is a certain combination of gunas that gives us the ability to function in those particular times. In Kali Yuga, the combination of gunas is weak. Nevertheless, it is the dharma has to be maintained. That is why he said, "Yuge, I will take the incarnation every now and then." So the dharma has to be maintained. It's not that dharma has no value in Kali Yuga. Dharma has to be maintained, because if he takes away the dharma itself, then there is no process for me to progress. He gives the process. And he says, you want to follow it? Very good. You will. I will see to it that you will be successful. If you don't want to follow it, no problem. You can be where you are. Okay. Then the Rajas prominent person is he has secondary sattva, Rajas prominent. He is a Kshatriya. He is assigned the task such as bravery, effulgence, fighting in wars, and etc. Those are his character, because his Rajas is prominent. Now coming to the horizontal, these two are in that vertical plane I described. The Rajas and Tamas prominent, these are all Shankaracharya's commentary, this particular portion. So the Rajas prominent seconded by Tamas is a Vaishya. He is given the agriculture, trade and business. He needs to have a lot of energy, and he is given that he is classified under the Vaishya Varna. And then the fourth one, the Tamas prominent, seconded by some Rajas, he is classified as a Shudra. And the servicing all the three, the activities of all the three other Varnas. It is not servicing the people, it is servicing the activities of those people. That distinction we have to understand. Because there's a confusion among people that the Shudra is asked to serve the Brahmanas. No, that is not what this Shastra says, but it has been abused. It has been very much abused over time. And that is what makes people not believe this, but that does not, it's like in English, they say, kill the messenger, not the message. So like that, we have to understand that these are the classifications. There are certain associated karmas with them. And on that basis, the service is given to servicing the other three activities are in the domain of the Shudra. Now, a word I have to say in this context is in the Kali Yuga. See, this was this distinction was based on what you call a spiritual economy. The Lord understands that to spiritually progress also, you have to have food in your stomach. Without food, you cannot survive. And therefore, there is a means of earning. The focus is realization of the self, the ultimate goal. But in order to do that, you have to have some means of keeping this body. And for that, these classifications were made. The four Varna classifications. Now, what has happened today is we don't have an economy that is spiritual, that is spiritually oriented. So we have now a centralized economy. The economy is now serving not self-realization, it is transmigration. The economy is serving the samsara, the coming back to life again and again and again. And why this transition happened? It again, if you take back the India itself, case of in India, there were the invasion by the Muslims and the Christians, the Europeans, And now we are out of that spiritual economy. We are into a what you call a transmigratory economy. This is my understanding of this, right? So in this case, how can we progress towards spiritual? A Brahmana also has to go and work in a factory 8 hours a day. That having said that, what we can possibly do is we can do something in our spare time. Keep a certain schedule every day, a Kshatriya or a Brahmana or a Vaishya or whatever. And you see the Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra fit in better than the Brahmana from this spiritual perspective. In today's world, you can possibly work in defense-related areas. All those things, you can still practice. The only one area that we are unable to practice in this economy is being a Brahmana. And we can do some things, if not the full measure, a partial measure in our. We can build our life accordingly in that fashion. Okay. Now, one more issue we need to discuss here with respect to this is, see, the Varna system is practiced only in the Hindu religion. Other religions don't practice Varna system. How can you justify this Varna system in the Hindu religion? How does it explain other religions' practice? This is very simply understood. This is a functional categorization, not a physical categorization. In Hinduism, the goal is different. In Christianity and other religions, the goal is different. Because these other religions have either ignored or they are ignorant or they have dismissed rebirth. This is a fact that the politically motivated ignoring the rebirth. That is how we have witnessed in the Western world. So, because of this one birth theory that they have, that hypothesis itself is wrong. That at least from looking from the Hindu perspective, that hypothesis of single life, then the question comes: why is somebody born in a very rich family? Why is somebody born in a very drug-infested family? Or why is somebody born a human? Why is somebody born an animal to be fed to this human being? All these questions will fail to be answered by this single, life hypothesis. Now, if you say it is God's will, then why do we have to even care for that God who just arbitrarily gives somebody a lot of wealth, arbitrarily gives somebody a lot of problems, or arbitrarily makes somebody a human being, somebody an animal? That just does not work in this. At least if you say you are religious, if I'm a scientific person, I don't. I believe in all these things. If you take that position, then also, with science, you always have to say there is a cause associated with every effect. Without a cause, there is no effect. Effect is a manifestation of a cause. All these are scientific statements. Then how do you explain I am born, different people born in different ways? So from a cause and effect perspective also, from a scientific perspective also, a single life cannot be justified. So having said that, the goal is different in Hinduism and other religions. In other religions, just you do certain things and you will go to heaven according to them. And you will live there in heaven with a different body or something like that. Now, what that brings is, for a finite life of 100 years or so, you get to enjoy eternal heaven. Finite effort, infinite outcome, that is also again impossible. For a finite work, there can only be a finite effect. So the concept of one life and eternal heaven life, or even for that matter, eternal hell, how do you justify somebody for heaven? At least you can say, okay, God is very compassionate, he gives that. Now when you come to eternal hell, how can you justify eternal hell for a person who has lived only 100 years? Even our the justice system doesn't allow that. If you have erred in some way, you are jailed only for a certain period of time. You are not jailed for the rest of your life. So that question, therefore, all these issues does not lend well to a single life. So if there is a multiple life, how do you organize the birth in the next life, and how do you allow a path for the person to move forward? Those are the issues being described in the Varna system, and that ensures the continuity of skills from one life to other, and wherever I can be best serving, I get that birth. So this is the, if you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, it is not an efficient system. Like that, a birth in a right environment is efficient, in a wrong environment is inefficient. And this again we pick up with respect to this thought in the 6th chapter 41 and 42nd verses. Prapya punyakritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shishtinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. Like this, there are 3 or 4 verses that deal with this issue. We will get to that when we get there. Therefore, birth and karma together define varna. Some minor discrepancies could happen, and that is self-correcting over a period of time. Now, in this context, that continuity, how it is, let me give a few details on that. See, when I die, something leaves this body. What leaves is what is called the Sukshma Sharira. That has the mind, the storage, whatever impressions I have stored in my mind, all these leave this body. And through the environment and rain and further getting into the plantations, plants, and this one, it gets into the food chain. When it gets through the food chain, this Sukshma Sharira gets into the food chain, and a human being consumes it, let us say at the right age, at the right time. And then this Sukshma Sharira gets mixed with the bloodstream of that person, and is further refined into the semen, and then implanted in a woman. He gets the birth. He or she gets that other birth. Now, what left this body gets implanted in another body. That is the continuity we are talking here. Just like if you take a hard drive from your computer and put it in another hardware, another computer, that in that computer, what you see is what you saw in the previous computer. Like that, the technology helps us understand this better. And with that, the continuity is maintained. Whatever I was in my last life, that's what I am in this current life. If my current life is an animal life, and for however long it takes, I come back to human life again somewhere down the road, and then at that point, I pick up where I left the human life. And then once I have got another human life, how would I change? See, in that human life, you will probably recall some of the difficulties you went through. Those impressions are there in the mind. So as an animal, I went through so much difficulties. Then I say, okay, all those helped me. I don't want to go there again. I want to follow the normal living, and probably there is a scope for improvement at that time. Okay, so those are all the variations we have to consider when we consider the Varna system. Those are all the issues. And I have taken more time than I have in the past on this, because this is a area that has a lot of confusion for so many people. And at the end of the class, if there are any questions, we can look at it on that. So here, Arjuna seems to, at least for Krishna, Arjuna does not ask the question verbally. Probably he may have made some facial gestures. So Krishna catches that and he says, as if it's a question from Arjuna, hey, you said you organized these 4 varnas, therefore you engaged in karma. Aren't you going to be affected by this karma and take another life? That Krishna prevents that, preempts that, and he says, I may appear as a doer of the from perspective of the transaction of Maya. You are in Maya, I am not in Maya. And you being in the domain of Maya, it may appear to you that I am engaging in action. I'm not engaging in action because I don't think I'm acting. That's the, we will see more of this in the next verse. In reality, I am not working because I'm outside Maya. Being outside Maya, that top point I said, where you get in that 3-dimensional picture, the top point, he has crossed that Prakriti. Having crossed that Prakriti, he is not affected by the karmas. Because, see, Krishna was also a human being somewhere along the line. And he did karma yoga and all those things. And then he got realization. And ultimately, he became the Brahma. And he attained Brahmahood. He not became Brahma, he attained Brahmahood. And then he comes, takes the avatars as and when necessary. That is what we will see in the next verse also. And therefore, he says, I am imperishable and not subject to transmigration. He says there that tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam. Though I may appear to be that I am working, no, I am not working, I am not doing karma, I am avyaya, I am immutable, imperishable. Okay, let's learn this. A lot of talk on this. Chatuh varnyam maya srishtam.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam.
Gunakarma vibhagashaha.
Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Gunakarma vibhagashaha.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. Gunakarma vibhagashaha.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. Gunakarma vibhagashaha.
Tasya kartaram apimam.
Tasya kartaram apimam. Tasya kartaram apimam.
Vidhi akartaram avyayam.
Vidhi akartaram avyayam. Vidhi akartaram avyayam.
Chaturvarnyam vidyakartaram avyayam.
Tasya kartaram apimam. Vidyakartaram avyayam. Tasya kartaram apimam. Vidyakartaram avyayam. Tasya kartaram apimam. Vidyakartaram avyayam.
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टम् गुणकर्मविभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम् चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टम् गुणकर्मविभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम् चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टम् गुणकर्मविभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
11, 12 and 13 ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिम् यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टम् गुणकर्मविभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम् न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते. So as if to answer Arjuna's question, hey, are you not going to be affected by this karma of creating the four varnas? He says, no me karma phale spruha. He had already said it doesn't bind me, that he is expanding on that here. Why I am not being affected by that? He says, Name karma phale spruha. I have no craving for the fruits of action. I don't do any action with a certain goal in fruit in mind, and therefore I am not affected by namam karmani limpanti. Therefore the actions don't bind me. Again, to say what is the binding? Any fruit, any karma has to generate a certain fruit of karma, fruit of action. And that fruit of action has to be conditionally, it has to be experienced. And to experience that fruit of action, I may have to take another karma, because I do so much more karma that I cannot experience possibly in one life. So I take up additional lives. But in this case, there is no source at all. There is no cause to get another birth, because I don't crave for any fruits of action. Spruha. Spruha is kind of an intense desire to, so for me, I don't have anything like that. Itimam abhijanati, he who understands me so that I am I'm free from bondage of action. Karma bihi nasa badhyate, even he is not bound by actions. Now, it is not meant to be here that just a intellectual understanding. This is to be understood as experiencing that. Only if I experience a self-realization state, do I understand the statement that I have no craving for fruits of action. Therefore, they don't mind me, because I will have experienced it myself. So the experiential knowledge is what is being discussed here. Therefore, these actions do not mind me, for I don't covet, I don't ask for any fruits of action. And one who knows me thus, not intellectually, experientially, one who knows me thus experientially, he is not bound by actions, because he has already experienced the state that I am in. That is the general meaning of this. Okay. So those actions do not bind me to take another birth because I have no ego attached with respect to those actions. I am the doer. Therefore, I have to experience the fruits of those actions. Those thoughts are not in there. When the thoughts are not in there, there is no implant of impressions in the mind. And if the impressions in the mind are not there, there is no enjoying the fruits of action itself. It's just like in a database. If there is no entry in a database, then there is no consequences with respect to that. Therefore, like that, there is no, in this database in our mind, this thought is not implanted, and therefore there is no consequence. Now, what does it mean that the karmas don't mind me? Because I don't reckon I am doing the karma. I am doing the karma. If I say, then I have the thought, oh, I am doing this karma because I am going to experience something, this. That thought is not there, and therefore I am not the doer is there. When I am not the doer, then is there, then there is no I. If I continue to live as I am not the doer, then the ego dies. I becomes weaker. The ego I becomes weaker and weaker, and somewhere along the line it drops off, and that's the state where the fruits of action have no power to give another birth. So this ego and association with the karma is what binds human beings to take another birth. Because those thoughts are, the impressions are already existing, that has to be experienced. And this, what is what Krishna says, and he says, it doesn't, I'm limpanti, namam karmani limpanti, lipta is binding. So the stain, such a stain doesn't occur to me because I have no ownership of the karma. Ownership of the karma has three aspects to it. One is volition. I want to do this karma. For that I prepare, and in preparing, when preparation is complete, I execute the karma. After the execution of the karma, I am looking forward to the fruits of those karma. So in here, all those three, when I say that I have no ownership of the karma, I don't have all the three. That means there is no database entry, as I was saying. And this is the reason why karmas are prescribed for the four varnas. This is, as I said, a goal-oriented division. And in order to achieve self-realization, the first thing I need to practice is karma yoga. And in karma yoga, that ownership has to be given up. Now, even the preparation I do, I want to do this karma. I want to do Satyanarayana Puja, and then I want to bring all the necessary ingredients and flowers and whatnot, and bring the priest to do the puja. And then at the end of the puja, there is the Palashruti. You do Satyanarayana Puja, you do this, you get this. All those three data are in my mind. But if I don't have that thought of even doing Satyanarayana Puja with a phala oriented, I would just do it for the love of God, then all these facts are not, all these impressions are not there, and therefore there is no birth related to that. So that is what Krishna is saying. The Lord has become a Lord through the practice of karma yoga. Somewhere along the line, he was a human being like you and me. And then at some point, he started on this path of karma yoga. And at the time of karma yoga, he did not have the fruits of action bind him. And he has gone beyond being a karma yogi. He has become a jnani. And having become a jnani, it is even beyond karma yogi. If the karma does not even bind a karma yogi, then there is no chance of binding a jnani. That is what we are seeing here when Krishna says, "It don't bind me," because I am, that unmanifested state, immutable, and therefore they don't bind me. If it didn't bind me as a human karma yogi, it will not bind me now. So he's extending on that. Nara may attach to the fruits of those actions. See, I have no desire in those actions, and therefore there is no desire for the fruits of actions also. And this he has demonstrated throughout his life. He killed Kamsa, and he gave the kingdom to Shursena. And he killed Shishupala. He gave the kingdom of Shishupala to his two sons. And so, therefore, he has never at any time enjoyed the fruits of his karma. He has done karma with a societal service, and that karma has no power to give him another life. So, in the absence of I am the doer, I will enjoy these sentiments, he says the actions do not bind me. So, all his actions are for societal benefit and not for self-glorification or self-benefit, and therefore they do not have any hold on me. Karma does not have any hold on me. Now, it is definitely, like appropriate that a person who says, I want to do this and I am the doer and I want to enjoy these fruits, it is natural that that person should be given that fruit. Otherwise, the credibility in the Shastra will be lost. Therefore, he does give fruits of action to those people who seek a fruit of action, who choose a certain particular action to be done, and they execute that action, and then they seek that fruit of action. It is appropriate that he or she gets that fruit of action. Otherwise, the whole system will collapse. And that is very important to note, that such a person who has a desire, that desire has to be met. And by the same token, somebody who works for this society, that I am not the doer, I have no desire for the fruits of karma, and for such a person, he says, okay, if that's what you desire, I'll free you of the bondage of those karmas. And knowing Krishna this way, that he is, free of all these, is knowing him tattvataha, knowing him as is. He is free of all the actions of performing actions, the fruits of action, and all those things are not in his motivation. Then that person who understands Krishna, that a person has understood him as is. And as is means tattvataha. The Sanskrit word tattvataha means knowing him correctly. That's what tattvataha indicates. So anyone who understands that I am not the doer of karma, I have no desire. These thoughts repeat again and again. These are only for reinforcement, not to labor the thought, but it is as a reinforcement. So he is not affected by karma, and he says those who know like this, who know me like this, that I am beyond this domain of karma and the karma fruits of karma, he also is free of bondage. Again, once again to say, it is the experiential knowledge, not the intellectual knowledge. Namam karmani limpanti.
Namam karmani limpanti. Namam karmani limpanti.
Name karma phale spruha.
Name karma phale spruha. Name karma phale spruha.
Namam karmani limpanti. Name karma phale spruha.
Namam karmani limpanti. Name karma phale spruha. Namam karmani limpanti. Name karma phale spruha. न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा
इति मां यः अभिजानाति
इति मां यः अभिजानाति इति मां यः अभिजानाति
कर्मभिः न स बध्यते
कर्मभिः न स बध्यते कर्मभिः न स बध्यते
इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
12 to 14 काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्य कर्तारमव्ययम् न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्. He continues, he says, Purvaihi mumukshubhihi api, the ancient seekers, they also, evam gyatva kritam karma, they carried out all their karmas, knowing so. Knowing so means what he has described in the last two verses. Tasmat tvam karma eva kuru. Therefore, you undertake the karmas. You have to do your what is prescribed to you. Purvaihi purvataram kritam. Like the ancients in doing the karma. The ancient people followed the prescribed karma, and he uses the word mumukshu, the seekers, and they have been successful, and therefore there is a tradition established in how to succeed in your life, and you also follow their lead. Therefore, you purvaihi, like the previous, like the ancients, like those people, you also undertake your karma that you have to take. Let's see what's the time. All right, let's stop here. We will continue the discussion on this in the next class. Today we will stop here. Okay, any questions anybody have? We can okay, looks like
Ramakrishna Aure.
go ahead.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It's with a lot of humility and that I'm asking this question, not by and a little bit of confusion.
Questions are very always welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this, I'm a Reddy. By Varna classification, a Shudra. Very proud to be. I'm very accepting of it. My question is, by being born as a Brahmana, does it guarantee the gunas? And does it give the right on certain karmas? That is one side. The flip side, being born in a lower class, am I doing something wrong trying to practice more of a rajas / sattvic oriented actions? You said it is confusing for Brahmins. It's much more confusing for us because it was very simple when I was in the village. We had our chores, taking care of the cattle, cooking for this thing, taking care of the fields. It was prescribed karmas, very clear. And here, where there is a lot more of a, like you said, non-spiritually oriented, whatever it is. So we are in a society, and I'm kind of drawn to some of these things. So my question is twofold. One, is it the birthright to practice certain karmas, which defines the guna?
Okay, the birth does not give guna, guna gives birth.
Okay, but whatever the birth is, you are in this birth.
Okay, in the birth, see, let me explain it this way. You do if you're, wherever you are working, let us say in your current life, there is a prescribed work for you, for me, everybody, there is a prescribed work. Now, I can, if I do my prescribed work and then do something more to help other people, I get credit for doing my work as well as leading other people to do better, right? But at the same time, I cannot say I don't do this work, but I'll do that work. That will be a violation. So by doing what I am doing and then doing something more than that is more creditable to me. And like that, wherever we are born, do the actions that are prescribed for that particular station, and then do more than that. See, jnana is not limited to Brahmanas. Jnana is open to everybody. It's the birthright of everyone to achieve jnana. And in that respect, everyone can progress, proceed, and do the karmas and progress. No one should feel no one should confuse himself or herself. Is this I'm not supposed to? With respect to jnana, you are welcome to do any time the activities with respect to gaining self-realization. Now, what is described here is that, see, for Krishna, from Krishna's perspective, maintenance of the universe in a certain way is more important than a single individual entity. He is not worried about killing Bhishma or Drona. Bhishma and Drona are, as individuals, is not of value to him. But what is value to him is maintain the dharma, the overall dharma. And in order to maintain this overall dharma, then a certain order is required. Nobody can do something what they like and still the dharma prevail. We see this in our professional life also. Every organization has a certain defined way of code of working. We all have to work within that dharma of that organization. If everyone is a leader to himself and does what he or she wants to do, that organization will not survive. So Krishna is talking that from the perspective of maintaining the universe in a certain order. And for maintaining the universe in a certain order, he needs the dharma, the four varnas he needs, because you need leadership in certain areas by different people. But it is everyone's birthright to participate in self-realization. You are not doing anything opposed to that by doing singing the glory of the Lord, or by singing, doing his work. He says in the Karma Yoga, in somewhere down the road, he says, like nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. He says you become an agent of doing. Agent of doing who? Agent of Krishna in doing the actions. So all our actions, if we are, and then in the 18th chapter it comes again, what is that? Swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manama, 1846, a very important verse. Swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manama. Whatever karma you are doing, you offer it as a worship to the Lord. He says, siddhim vindati, he succeeds in realizing the self. So nobody is barred from doing any glorification of the Lord or service of the Lord. And the ultimate realization that Lord is everything comes through in seeing God in everybody. No one should feel inferior, no one should feel superior. There is a reason why you are born in a particular environment, because you are best able to do the service of the Lord in that particular environment, in that particular role. And that role can be one of the four varnas. But that does not stop anyone else from trying a little more than what he or she is prescribed to do. Does that answer your question? Satya?
Yeah, thank you.
I want to add one more thing, Satya. Even in Mahabharata itself, there is the reference to the who was selling the meat and
Dharmavyada.
Dharmavyada story. Dharmavyada story is a great example to say, even though he was doing the chore of meat selling and everything, he was taking care of his parents, and he was so knowledgeable that he imparts the beauty or all the teachings in the Shastras to your Brahman.
That story, it takes about 5 minutes to explain. See, the story goes like this. There was this one sage, he did a lot of tapas and he gained sufficient power. And then one day when he was sitting there, a bird drops on his head. So he was upset that the bird dropping fell on his head. He looked at the bird and the bird died. Then he felt very elated that he has accumulated the power to burn this bird. Then he goes for his daily bhiksha, and then he says, Bhavati bhikshan dehi. And then she says, for the housewife from inside says, I'm serving my husband, I'm giving him food, I will be with you in a few minutes. And then this person waited and waited, and she did not come. He called again. And then after her husband's meal was over, she comes out. Sorry, I'm delayed. I was working for to help my husband. And then, she was doing this Tri Dharma there. And then he looked at her annoyed. And she says, I'm not that bird that got killed by you. That's exactly what she says. And then he says, how did you know that? And then she says, in answer to that question, you go to this Dharmavyada who is in some village, another town, and he will answer the question. And then he goes in search of that particular Dharmavyada. And Dharmavyada, as soon as he comes, sees this Brahmana, this sage, he is a meat seller. Dharmavyada was selling the meat. And then he said, oh, you have been sent by that lady, right? I'll be with you in a minute. And so he does his business, whatever he has to do. And then he entertains this sage. And then this sage, he takes him inside. And then sage asks him, how did you know that I'm sent by this Pativrata? And, he says, this Dharmavyada, my job is I do this meat business because I'm under a curse. I was a Brahmana in my previous life. I did not do what I need to do as a Brahmana. And therefore, I got this life. And now I have realized this and I am serving my parents, my old age parents. And that has given me the power to know all what I said is, are you sent by that woman? So the doing swakarma, that dharma is very powerful. And but nothing in the Shastra says you cannot go beyond that. Use it as a datum, as a baseline, and do the baseline work, because that baseline work contributes the overall growth of dharma in the society. If everybody ignores their dharma and does something else, and that something else becomes only half baked, not properly, not an efficient execution of that karma, then the entire society suffers. So Krishna's interest in Varna system is to help society and not help any individual or any individual's ego to grow.
He was able to teach even a sage. That is
and he teaches afterwards. There is 3 chapters in Mahabharata where he teaches dharma to this sage. The dharma was, the sage had neglected dharma, but to him the dharma came as a teaching from this Dharmavyada, the meat seller.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. We'll see you next class.